August 17, 1943. The moonlit coast of the Baltic Sea is suddenly eviscerated by the roar of nearly 600 British bombers. Their target, Peenemünde, the cradle of the Reich's rocket program. In one night, the dreams of reaching the stars are nearly incinerated. But the project doesn't die. It retreats. It burrows. It flees from the sky into the cold, crushing embrace of the Kohnstein mountain in central Germany. This was the beginning of Mittelwerk. It wasn't just a relocation. It was a mutation of industry. To protect the V-2 rockets from the fire above, the engineers carved a 20-kilometer labyrinth directly into the limestone. This became a subterranean city of iron and concrete, where the first objects ever to touch the edge of space were assembled. But Mittelwerk was never a triumph of science. It was a descent into an industrial hell, a place where the future of human exploration was forged in a landscape of absolute, calculated despair. Imagine two parallel main tunnels, Tunnel A and Tunnel B, each wide enough to swallow two full-sized freight trains side by side. They stretch nearly 2 miles deep into the solid rock, connected by 46 cross galleries. This was the Mittelbau, the middle construction, a grid of mechanized assembly lines buried under hundreds of feet of solid stone. The environment was a sensory assault. Inside, the temperature was a constant, bone-chilling 10 degrees Celsius. The air wasn't air at all. It was a thick, stagnant soup of limestone dust, oil fumes, and the sharp, metallic tang of ozone from welding arcs. There was no day or night here. The only rhythm was the relentless, buzzing hum of thousands of flickering fluorescent lights and the rhythmic, deafening clanging of heavy hammers against hollow steel hulls. The mountain didn't just house the factory. It became a living, breathing machine that slowly consumed every living thing that entered its gates. Mittelwerk was a place of grotesque contradictions. In one gallery, scientists in pristine white coats were calibrating the world's first sophisticated guidance computers, the direct ancestors of the technology that would eventually navigate the Apollo missions. They worked with vacuum tubes, copper wiring, and precision gyroscopes. Yet, just a few meters away, thousands of starving men were moving tons of rock and steel by hand, using tools that hadn't changed since the Middle Ages. The rockets were masterpieces of liquid fuel technology, standing 14 meters tall, designed to break the sound barrier and strike cities hundreds of miles away. But they were built by a disposable workforce. In the early months of construction, there were no barracks. Men lived, slept, and died inside the damp, unventilated cross galleries, huddled on stacks of empty wooden rocket crates. The silver skin of the V-2 was polished to a mirror finish, but it was polished by hands that were skeletal and gray with dust. The industry of the future was being built on a foundation of human ash. By 1944, the tunnels had developed their own ecosystem of horror. The noise was absolute, a constant thundering roar of production that never stopped for a single second. The most feared areas were the sleeping tunnels, galleries where the rock dust was so dense it coated everything in a ghost-like gray film. Men inhaled this limestone powder until their lungs turned to stone. Health was a concept that didn't exist in the Kohnstein. The total lack of sunlight, the perpetual dampness, and the toxic fumes from the rocket fuels, liquid oxygen, and alcohol, meant that the average life expectancy for a laborer was measured in weeks, not months. It is a chilling statistic that every V-2 rocket that successfully launched cost an estimated 6 human lives to manufacture. This was the true vengeance of the weapon, not just on the cities of London or Antwerp, but on the very people who were forced to build its silver fins and combustion chambers. When the Allied forces finally breached the Kohnstein in April 1945, they didn't find a factory. They found a science fiction nightmare. Thousands of completed and half-finished rockets stood silent in the darkness, looking like a forest of silver trees waiting for a wind that would never come. But the story of Mittelwerk didn't end with liberation. It transformed. Mittelwerk became the ultimate hunting ground for Operation Paperclip. The Americans and the Soviets raced to the mountain, not to bring justice, but to harvest the technology. Hundreds of V-2 rockets, thousands of blueprints, and the lead engineers who oversaw this underground hell were packed into crates and moved across the ocean. The V-2 transformed into the Redstone rocket, then the Saturn V. The path to the moon was paved directly through the tunnels of Mittelwerk. The rockets that eventually carried humanity to the stars were the direct, unedited descendants of the machines built in this subterranean tomb. Today, many of the tunnels of Mittelwerk have collapsed or been flooded, reclaimed by the mountain and the rising groundwater. The iron is rusting, and the concrete is crumbling back into dust. But the lesson of the Kohnstein remains. Mittelwerk is a stark, shivering reminder that technological progress is not inherently moral. It is a monument to the moment when humanity's reach for the heavens was fueled by the darkest, most hollow depths of the earth. As we look toward the future of Mars and beyond, we must remember the shadows of the mountain. Does the end ever truly justify the means? Or is the rust in these tunnels a warning about the price of progress that we have yet to hear? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to keep exploring the gritty, hidden side of industrial history, hit the subscribe button. We will see you in the next descent.